Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about how Nintendo may have inadvertently given us some insight as to what to expect for the future of Mario Kart World DLC, and it could go absolutely bananas. Yes, I am suggesting that there may be some significant crossover DLC between Donkey Kong Bananza and Mario Kart World. We've been theorizing about this for a long time, and now we have even more evidence to believe so. Now, disclaimer here. This new bit of information would actually be spoiling some pretty significant characters in Donkey Kong Bananza, but I will not be revealing these spoilers in this video, so you can watch through this video without any concerns for spoilers of Donkey Kong Bananza. Do not worry. However, the bigger point I want to make for this video is how there has been this conversation as of late that perhaps Mario Kart World is dying. I do not agree with that. I think Mario Kart World still has plenty of legs and a very, very bright future. And some of that future has to do with continued updates, and I think this first big one is going to have to do with Donkey Kong, and there are some very significant possibilities here that I do think make a great deal of sense, which is what I want to get into this time. But before going forward, let me point out, I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers, so if you find yourself enjoying my content and you haven't subscribed already, your subscription would be appreciated. So in the credits for Mario Kart World, we see the voice actors of Yu Hayashi and Sugo Mogami. These voice actors are also in the credits for Donkey Kong Bananza. I will not show you who they are playing roles as, but they are also in this game. And so that's leading people to believe that these characters are going to be added to Mario Kart World, which fuels the theories we've had about this game for some time. So for those who aren't aware, in Mario Kart World, a lot of the characters that aren't NPC characters, a lot of the main characters, have alternate costumes. But Donkey Kong and Pauline only have one alternate costume. Most of the others have several. In the case of Donkey Kong, I find this one to be the most egregious because Donkey Kong has always been around for every Mario Kart game, even though the first one, technically, it's Donkey Kong Jr. And then in the case of Pauline, she's essentially as important as Daisy or Rosalina, yet they have more costumes than her. And Pauline even has alternate costumes in Mario Kart Tour, yet we only have one for Pauline and only one for Donkey Kong. Why is there only one alternate for these significant characters in Mario Kart World? Well, as we found out, the next big game coming from Nintendo after Mario Kart World for Switch 2 is Donkey Kong Bananza, and the starring characters for this game are not just Donkey Kong, but also Pauline. And so there's a whole bunch of different costumes and such for DK and Pauline, so the thought is eventually they're going to be using these costumes in Mario Kart World. However, Pauline in Bananza is not the same Pauline in Mario Kart World. This Pauline is a younger Pauline. And so that leads us to wonder, is young Pauline going to be added into this game, not just different costumes? And that seems like a pretty likely possibility, especially after what we've seen of the voice actors in the credits for both Donkey Kong Bananza and Mario Kart World. There are characters that have had voice work done that have not been shown in Mario Kart World, yet these voice actors are a part of the credits. We've actually seen something like this happen before in the case of Astrobot. Astrobot had voice actors in the credits from the base game, but their work wasn't actually seen until the DLC. And this actually makes a lot of sense considering the theory. The theory is that this has been intentional, this connection between Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World. So if there was this plan initially, then obviously the voice actors would be part of the project from early on, and they would be in the credits. And so we have plenty of reason to believe that they are going to be adding Donkey Kong characters to Mario Kart World. I'm not going to be talking about all the Donkey Kong characters in Bananza because that would be spoilers, but some obvious ones, young Pauline, perhaps Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, Cranky Kong, and maybe a lot more. There could be a significant amount of characters added to Mario Kart World. But I think it would go beyond just characters. As we've talked about, there is a lack of costumes for DK and Pauline. Those should be added in as well. And there's a lot of costume options between Donkey Kong and Pauline throughout Bananza. But even just characters and costumes I don't think would be quite enough. There are even some really interesting card options as well. Let's consider Rambi, for example. Rambi is an animal, not a kart. They could just put a Rambi-inspired vehicle in Mario Kart World, not too different from the Rob-inspired vehicle or the Dolphin Dasher. But you want to know what would be even more interesting? If they literally just put Rambi himself, and hear me out here. there was a cancelled Donkey Kong racing game where you would race on Rambi. So what if Rambi himself functioned as a kart? And when we consider that in Bananza, that Rambi has actual barrels to help with his racing, blasting around, providing an exhaust very much like a kart, they could very easily fit this in there. They could have sparks, they could have the boost in the beginning, there could be smoke coming from Rambi's feet as he turns and runs and stuff. Like, this could actually work. Rambi would be the most epic vehicle option. But there's actually another vehicle option that makes a lot of sense, and perhaps even more sense than Rambi himself. And that's the minecart. The minecart from Bananza has an actual exhaust now, and when you tilt it, there are sparks, kind of like when you drift, there are sparks in Mario Kart. They could very easily adapt the minecart in Bananza to be a properly functioning kart in Mario Kart World. So there are some pretty cool vehicle options they could use as Bananza DLC, but would new characters and vehicles really be enough of a substantial update to Mario Kart World to keep it going, to keep it relevant? And I think the answer is no. These would be nice, but ultimately, at the core of it all, what's going to get people most excited to continue to play Mario Kart World are updates to how we actually play the game. And I've talked about in the past how just with the core content of the game, Nintendo could somewhat easily update the game to make more of the game accessible. Like, for example, give us easier ways to access 3-lap circuits. Or another example, there are only 7 knockout tours. Yet there are hundreds of possible route options in Mario Kart World. There could be more knockout tours. And so they could add more things to do in Mario Kart World without actually adding any new tracks to the game. But with Bananza in mind, could they have a significant expansion? And I think they absolutely could. Now, a theory that's been going around for a while that I didn't think too much of at first, but now with Bananza in mind, it starts to make a lot more sense, is imagine the map of Mario Kart World, right? And imagine if they were to do something to Mario Kart World the way they did something to the map of Breath of the Wild. So you have the whole map of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild, and consider the changes they made in Tears of the Kingdom. They added caves, they added sky islands, and they added a depth below. Considering what we have with Mario Kart World, they could easily add some caves and other things throughout the map. There's definitely a lot of open spaces there. Even though there's some things to do, there's definitely a lot more they could add. But also, there are already islands and things in the sky in Mario Kart World. Conceivably, they could add more. And then, considering Bananza, how Bananza is an entire adventure to the core of the world, venturing through different layers underground, they could perhaps add different chasms or holes, somewhat like Tears of the Kingdom, throughout the open world map of Mario Kart World, letting us get to an underground layer of Mario Kart, which also, considering the theme of Mario, there's always an underground world to explore. There are always underground levels. So they could tie in Bananza and have different areas from Bananza as actual playable areas throughout the underground of Mario Kart World. That could be a significant expansion to the game that would still fall under the entire Mario universe, which is another point I want to make here. From the Ask Developer series, the devs of Mario Kart have made it known that, at least for the base game, they want to focus on just the Mario universe, and that may extend to DLC as well. Everything we're talking about here is Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong is part of the expanded Mario universe, but Donkey Kong Bananza actually helps to further unify the Donkey Kong and Mario worlds. Let me point out that the same EPD production group that made Mario Odyssey has also made Donkey Kong Bananza. And so there's a lot of potential for crossover here, still within the Mario universe. And there's actually something else that dawned on me recently. I consider what's been done with Fortnite. So for those that don't know, Fortnite has an open world map, and every few months there is a new season where they provide a significant change to the map, where they'll literally take out a section and add a whole other new section. There'll be a new town or new sort of structure or dungeon or something going on there. And in between seasons, there may be minor updates, and over the years, the map of Fortnite has changed dramatically. I'm not here trying to argue that Nintendo is going to treat the map of Mario Kart World the way Epic treated the map of Fortnite over many years, but what we have seen of Fortnite shows that you can absolutely take an open world map and continually expand upon it and update it across years of updates. So I don't think Nintendo is going to take out areas in the map of Mario Kart World and put in new ones in place of them, but I do think they will expand upon the game, and the way I talked about by introducing underground areas, sky islands, that's one way to do it. A more simple way is simply by adding new, bigger islands as places you can explore outside of the main map, but expanding upon the core map I think is a more interesting idea, and considering what we've seen with Donkey Kong Bananza, and considering the amount of evidence that there's clearly some kind of plan here to introduce some level of Donkey Kong Bananza crossover to Mario Kart World, this future expansion could go absolutely bananas. Will they actually go this far? I don't know. I just feel confident in saying that Donkey Kong Bananza is clearly going to be involved with some sort of update to Mario Kart World, and perhaps we'll hear about this in the next Nintendo Direct. Of course, with Nintendo, the timing of things can always be questionable, so we'll actually see. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.